the other place, a truck has to take that coil. And you don't want to put one coil on one truck. You want to put a couple of coils on the same truck to the same destination so that, you're saving money that way because they charge by truck and by distance to the next location. So, if I had to roughly estimate, that's a good one because I actually haven't done the math on that. But let me see if I could do something real quick. So, over the last 3 months, I would say on average we send 10 coils a day to a customer. So 33, multiply that by an average of, I guess, 30 tons. 100. Wow. Yeah, that even seems like crazy. Maybe not 10 coils a day. Let's see. I would say, yeah, reduce that to 5. So it's giving me like a 13 million number, but that seems like a little much. I think it's more like a million something based on feedback that I got from one of our engineers. I would put it at a million because, you have to understand, we make, maybe, let's see, 300 times. Yeah, so we make about $28,000 a day on a slow. $208,000 per day if we run well. So per month we make like quite a few million because a lot of times we run the heavy steel, like the heavy gauge steel, the really thick ones. So most of the time we prefer not to run 20-ton slabs. We run more like 40-ton slabs.
Okay. And so basically, okay. So what I wanted to know was that, ever since that you people started, using that new system, so it's after that you are making 208,000 per day, or, the numbers were different back then when you were not using these additional resources.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So like the number of how much we spend is not really in like I know there's a cost savings there. I don't know that I can give you a number right now, to be honest. Like I would have to touch base with my Apex guy and get a more accurate number because I don't want to overinflate the numbers and make it seem like it's more than it is, but it was a huge, huge amount that we were saving.
Okay, that's amazing.
And so a lot of these projects that we do, they have to be approved as a cost-saving project before you can even do a project. So I know that my manager, worked the numbers and put in those numbers. So I could probably get those numbers for you now, but I don't have that.
Okay, no problem with that. And if you think that you could later let me know if you think that I can leave space for that in the resume when I'm mentioning this. So it could be done either ways.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely get you that information probably sometime tomorrow.
Definitely, great. Okay, and so apart from this one, so any other project in terms of improvement?
So a current project that I'm working on now, we don't really have a scale to measure the weight of our coils or our slabs before we charge them into the furnace. So the way because you can imagine it's a huge slab. There's no scale really that could withstand all that weight that could measure
Yeah.
that many tons of coils that frequently and that hot, because the coils are already hot. So the way we
Mm.
measure our weight of our coils is by dimension. So when the
Mm.
slabs are cast, we have casting lines that cast these slabs into a certain size. You know, they always pretty much make the same size all the time. But we also have
Mm.
manual people that manually measure slabs with a laser, a hand laser,
Mm-hmm.
and then they
Mm-hmm.
also they don't measure every single slab with a tape measure unless
Mm-hmm.
they're cool, but sometimes they do with a measuring tape and with a micrometer for thickness.
Okay.
So sometimes though, that's basically how we identify the slab. So when we have a slab of a certain size, they
Mm-hmm.
say these are the dimensions of it. That information is put into a computer, and then we calculate a weight based on that. You know.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So one issue that we were having sometimes, when you manually input dimensions, a human can make a
Mm-hmm.
mistake. You know, they could be error.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sometimes the length might be a few feet off, or, you know, the thickness might be a few inches off, and that could
Mm-hmm.
throw our whole calculation off. And so when we
Yeah.
get a coil, our system predicts a weight that the coil is going to be after it's rolled, because what we
Mm-hmm.
also do is after we roll the coil, we make it really thin. We crop off the head a little bit and the tail just to make it straight, because it doesn't always straight. It's not always straight. The head and the tail of the coil are never like very straight. So we want to make it a nice
Okay.
rectangle. So we crop the heads and tails like automatically. Our system just does that. So we have a calculator somewhere in the background that accounts for all those things. And it
Mm-hmm.
also accounts for the fact that when we heat slabs in the furnace, they
Mm-hmm.
hot steel reacts with oxygen, and so it oxidizes the top layer, the top surface of these slabs oxidizes and forms this like black, kind of like a scale, like, you know, fish have scales. So it forms this like
Okay.
black layer that just peels off. So of course it loses a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of weight because of that. So we have all these
Yeah.
calculations that do all this, that we get a final weight. Well, sometimes after the coil is reduced and it's ran and it's made, we'll get an alarm to say, hey, you know, this coil is now this long and it's this thin, but it's not that weight that it was supposed to be. So check this out, something is wrong. And sometimes we would
Mm-hmm.
find that they placed the wrong bar in the furnace after we,
Oh.
yeah, because we would have to do an analysis of that coil and just try to see
Mm-hmm.
what went wrong, why is it not weight. So sometimes they tend to charge the wrong bar in the furnace because they wrote down the dimensions wrong. So we were
Mm-hmm.
thinking, in order to avoid that, because you think about it, each coil spends 2 hours in the furnace, and it's not one coil at a time. It's like 20 rows of coil of slabs actually in a furnace, and they
Yeah.
take 2 hours to heat up. So you wasted 2 hours, you wasted time, you wasted energy to heat up all those bars, and everything is supposed to run in sequence. So as soon as
Yeah.
you run something out of sequence, you have to stop everything and you have to figure out where the missing bar is. And if not,
Yeah.
you just have to reprogram the system so that it doesn't get confused, because at the end of the line we have a marker, we have a robot that marks the coil
Mm-hmm.
and gives it an individual number, unique number, and if it's confused, it's not going to mark, it stops. So
Oh. Okay.
when we charge a wrong
Yeah.
bar in the furnace, everything stops. So anyway, my point was, we came up with my manager gave me a project to find a vendor that could help us find a laser that could measure the slabs before they go into the furnace. So I found a vendor that was able to give us a laser that we wanted that could automatically measure the bars before they went into the furnace. That project is still in process right now because we have everything in place for the vendor and everything to install these lasers, but we need time for them to install it when the mill is not running. And the next
Yeah.
outage that we're going to have, we typically take an outage twice a year,
Okay.
just to do a lot of like heavy work on the furnace and all the whole mill. So that's usually 9 days, and that's coming up in October. So everything is set for that, but it's not complete. So
Okay. So was it your responsibility to negotiate with the vendor as well?
It was my responsibility to get in touch with the vendor, see what equipment they had, meet with them, show them the location of what we were looking for, have them verify that they can do the project. I didn't handle any of the finances. That was my manager because it's a big capital project. And then another part that I did was do the testing with them, coordinate the testing so that they could test out their lasers and to see that it would work. You know, we had them set them up temporarily just to see that they were actually going to work and work with our computers. And the first test didn't go as well. The second test went much better. The third test went excellently. So I think we're ready to install it, and we're just waiting for that.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay. And so any other project from this process improvement side?
Those are the only three big ones that I can think of. Everything else is just small daily things, like if something goes wrong, and then we try to fix it and we fix it right away, and then,
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And so in customer relationship management, so you process and resolve quality claims to maintain customer satisfaction. So yeah, in terms of quality, like we already discussed that, um, they need the quantity they are paying for, they need the quality they are paying for. So
Right.
yeah, so what sort of claims do you usually get on a regular basis, and yeah, how do you help resolve them?
Okay, so one of the biggest claims that we get is for little pinholes. We have some products and that, some type of grades that are prone to getting holes if they have a little
Yeah,
defect on them. And most of the
yeah,
products that get holes are like our tin products because they're very thin. They reduce them
mhm,
so thin that, you know, any little defect on those will show through. It's not a thick part.
yeah,
So
mhm,
um, what I do with claims, we go over claims daily. My manager will give me a list of claims that came in, and then
mhm,
part of that is I'll get a list of coils that got to the customer, that the customer is mostly claiming for. The thing about tin, because a lot of the parts are stamped out, they don't.
mhm.
We don't get claims for a whole coil. We'll get claims for little pieces of the coil that had the defect,
Okay. Mhm.
because they do cut the big coil into small pieces and then stamp the parts
Yeah,
out. So my job is to just kind of pinpoint um, what could have caused those holes. So I go through my surface inspection maps, um, basically look at every little thing that was flagged on the coil, look at the picture, and then
mhm,
we have known defects that cause holes. So based on that, I'll identify what caused the hole. Most of the holes are caused by furnace tears, which we've greatly reduced, because of our new improvements to our furnace, but it
yeah,
still remains like one of our biggest causes for holes. So that's part of the
yeah.
reason why we're trying to improve all our furnaces and make sure that we're not producing that defect.
Okay. Okay, great. And so then performing layered process audits to verify compliance and ensure optimal functioning of production system.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, so how are these audits and how do you conduct these audits?
So we are, as a company, have a layered system of auditing. Um,
Okay.
our first level is the people that are in contact with the process on a daily basis. So that's your operators.
Mhm.
They perform
Okay.
different types of audits on a daily basis, on a shiftly basis. So when they come
Mhm.
in, they walk the line, the entire process. They make sure um, our process, certain things are checked, like our roles, like I told you, are very critical because everything
Mhm.
goes on those rolls. Every coil
Yeah.
touches those rolls. So they go in, they make sure that the rolls are in good shape, they're not, damaged in any way before they start running, and then they make sure that they're turning in the right direction and they're not
Mhm.
frozen or stuck or anything like that. Um, we have on the electrical side, we make sure all the electrical components are working. So basically operations in whatever department that you're in, they do a
Mhm.
standard check per shift.
Okay.
Our quality department operators, what they do is they just select one coil out of a certain batch, and they'll actually physically unroll it. You know what, like the old school, like videotape recorder, the VHS
Yeah. Yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
how you would rewind it to
Yeah.
manually to get, yeah. So what they have this big giant rewinder that will rewind the
Ah.
coil on one side, and they're checking the surface while it's rewinding to make sure that everything is good. So they manually do that because sometimes the camera can miss something. You can't always
Yeah.
depend on a
Mhm.
camera. It can malfunction. So we have people doing those audits. And then our second audit is their shift managers. So their shift managers perform audits, um, again, on a broader basis of the entire process. They make sure that the level ones are doing their audits and that they're filing them correctly, and that any issues that they bring up, that the operators bring up to the shift managers, is resolved.
Mhm.
So the level one is the operator does an audit. Any issues that come up, he reports to his shift manager. Shift manager performs his own audit, takes care of whatever is wrong in the level one, and then he
Mhm.
reports to quality.
Okay.
Quality, we're like level three. We
Okay.
have weekly audits where we audit certain parts of the equipment, and we actually go into the mill, physically look at the equipment, take pictures, see for any changes, any variation from the norm, and then we document that, report that out to our area manager. Anything
Mhm.
that's out of the norm, we report out to him. He passes on the information to everyone downstream to fix it. And then we document
Okay.
how compliant we are for that. So that's like our level three audits. And then we're audited by internal audits as a whole. We have internal
Okay.
auditors that just audit our whole like documentation and make sure that we're doing our monthly and our weekly audits.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's great. And then you have mentioned that you mentor and develop technical
Hello?
training manuals. So yeah, so what
Oh,
was
yeah,
this
yeah.
curriculum? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Mhm.
you. Yeah, so
Okay, great.
when I first started at USCO, um,
Mhm.
I got hired. It was not a group interview. It was an interview where
Mhm.
it's like you have 15 minutes with a manager in a different department. It was like
Mhm.
speed dating. So you have 15 minutes
Mhm.
to do your pitch, and then you get a 20-minute break, and you go to the next office, and you do it again, and you go to the next office. So basically, I had 6 interviews in one day, not knowing
Oh,
where I would end up. What they do
yeah.
is if they like you, if the managers that like you just put your name down, and they get a priority list. They'll put you as number 1, 2, or 3. And so they get to pick
Okay.
3. And then the human resource people are the ones who distribute based on need for the company. So when I
Mhm.
got put into quality, I wasn't interviewed by anyone in my department at all. So, and they didn't know I was coming. They were just told by HR, like, hey, you guys are getting somebody new.
Oh.
So when I first started, and the only reason that they were getting somebody new is because the girl that was doing my job at the time was
Mhm.
transferring to another plant.
Okay.
So she was only going to be there for a month, and she had put in a request for a transfer, and it was approved, and she had a month left. So that's why they put me there. So when I
Okay.
got there, they basically told me, "Oh, you have a month to like learn her job," and I'm thinking, "What? A month? I have
Yeah.
no idea. I have no knowledge of the steel industry. I have no knowledge of what's going on." But I was like, "Okay, I'm up for the challenge. What do
Yeah.
I need to learn?" And everyone's just kind of like, "Well, we don't really have any like really training methods, so you're just
Yeah.
gonna have to learn as you go." And I mean, the steel industry is so extensive. Like before you distill a
Exactly.
coil, you have to know what grades are surface critical. I knew nothing about grades. I knew nothing about material science. I mean, I I knew the very basics of how steel is made, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Most of my experience from my previous co-op was, in polymers. So I I get into work. I'm told I need to learn the job in 4 weeks, and then my first 2 weeks I'm in like a general training class. So I'm not even training with the girl that's supposed to train me. And then the first 2 weeks, I'm in a general training class. Then the third week, I go into the office and the girl's on vacation for a week. So the third week,
What?
I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, what do I do? They're like, I don't know how to teach you this in like a week. You're gonna have to wait for her to come back. And then when she came back, she was ready to go already. She just like gave me this folder of all this information. Like, this is what I know. Make copies of this because I'm taking this with me, and I'll show you some things. And these are the things we do. And you need to. And I was just so overwhelmed, and I was thinking,
Yeah.
oh my God, there has to be a better way because I just came from a co-op where
Yeah.
they were ready for me. When I came there, they were so prepared. My manager ran me through everything that I was supposed to go to. The learning was in stages. They had a whole manual laid out for me in Excel. They had PowerPoint presentations, everything ready for me. Like there was
Yeah.
no excuse to not know the job. And here I was just like sink or swim, like I have to take over this girl's job and I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So it was like being in college back again. I mean, I took those copies of
Yeah.
whatever she gave me, tried to make sense out of them, and I'm thinking this is all paper. Like if I lose this, that's it. The knowledge is gone. I don't have this
Yeah.
knowledge. So I have to put it on a computer somewhere and save it. And like
Yeah.
so that the next person can use it too. And if I ever get to the point where it's like, because with U.S. Steel, from what I know is, and what I've seen and what everyone's told me, people move into different departments very
Mhm.
fairly like quickly and often. Like if they need you in another department really quickly,